Welcome to CrossPlatform Podcast, where we discuss how to solve productivity problems across platforms. I'm Augusto Pinaud,
I'm Art Gelwicks.
and today we are going on the road again. And this topic came because I went on the road for a workation. So my daughter had some events in San Diego, and I pack so I could work instead of here or there. That is part of my goal. Part of my goal is to be able to grab my office and go and work and be there and change locations. It was something that was very important to me 20 years ago. 20 years
Mhm.
ago, I really wanted to continue living in that bag. I was for many years a heavy road warrior. And when that lifestyle changed because of the kids, I knew that I didn't want it to lose it completely. I didn't want it to come back to a building, to an office. I didn't care if the office was on the corner. I wanted to continue being able to put everything on a bag and go. And we have been able to do that. And I have been able to pack most of or some of the stuff and go to different places and work. And that's a little bit of what inspired this show. Last week, as I was doing this, I was packing, and my daily bag, my day to day bag, doesn't work for that. It's too small, and it's too small on purpose. The larger bag that you give me, the more stuff I will carry with me. I admire those mature people who can have a very large bag with a little thing inside. That's not me. Give me a space and I will find something that I may should ought to carry in that bag just in
Right.
case maybe I don't need it. So all that said, when I was looking into that, I said, okay, you know what? I need to refresh my list of my bag. I
Mhm.
I had a couple of bags that I take for these occasions where I need more gear than what my small bag will carry. And that's what we were thinking as we were looking into this. So that's what initiate this conversation.
We've talked about this in the past where we talk about going on a day or an overnight. There's one set of gear that you pack and you pull together. But if you're going for an extended period of time, primarily if you're going in a situation where you don't have the option to go back and get those things that you may or may not have forgotten, that requires a different level of planning and it requires a different level of forethought. So, for example, if I'm going for a day, maybe I'm going for an overnight,
Mhm.
I may only take one charger with me. I'll take a USB-C charger that works for the devices that I have on hand. But if it's going to be a week, and that's kind of the benchmark I put around this, what does it take to be prepared for 5 days away from my normal environment? Then it's going to have to be multiple chargers. Not that the one charger can't do the work, but the odds are that I have multiple devices that need to be charged simultaneously. So now I have to start to accommodate, okay, so instead of one charger, maybe I have a charger per device. Maybe I have a charger per device, plus I have a cable per device now because they each need a charging cable. Maybe I need wireless headphones and wired headphones because not only are we thinking about not having the option to go just grab something that's in a drawer because we need it, but we also have the incidence of something may fail.
Mhm.
And if something fails, we don't necessarily have the chance to replace it immediately, especially when it's that kind of mid length travel, a 5 day travel. Unless something fails at the very beginning of that 5 days, you don't really have the option to jump on Amazon and have something shipped to you. And in many cases, when you're traveling, that may not be an option, period. So having that backup item can be really useful. And thinking about it from pre pandemic days, we thought about it more from a business type of environment. Yeah, I'm going to be working on site for X period of time. But now we have to have that consideration because, yeah, in many cases we can work anywhere at any time for any length of time. I mean, it's very theoretic, or it's very possible to go and work somewhere for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Why? Because you can. You don't have that built-in mandate anymore where you need that physical proximity to someplace. Well, if you're going to relocate for that period of time, you got to have your gear set up in a way that you're able to continue to be effective and be productive. Now, you
And
said you have a day bag and you have I want to say, an extended trip bag.
I actually, and you made it something that I had not thought until you mention it, even that I do it. So I have three bags. The first bag is my daily bag. It's a 6 by 10, basically fits, is the size of an iPad 11-inch. Okay. And it fits my daily gear. So my iPad 11-inch, the iPad mini with the keyboard, and all that daily gear I'm going to work. I can basically be fully functional with that one, go to clients,
Hmm.
presentations, keynotes, anything. Then I have a bag that is, I'm going to go more than one day. Okay. Then I need chargers, I need stuff. And it's basically the size of a 14-inch laptop. Okay. And will fit a 14-inch laptop if I need to, and more chargers, more stuff. And then I have a roller bag, so a bag with wheels for
Hmm.
those moments where it's more than a week.
Okay.
Okay. So the conditions that make this last trip special was the fact that, yes, I was going for a week that technically will fit the roller, but because of the nature of the trip, I was going to be working, I didn't know where, every day.
Hmm.
So it was not just move the gear, landed in some place. It was move the gear and then figure it out the rest of the days.
Okay.
I learned years ago that my daily bag comes no matter what. It may come empty inside of the luggage, but it comes no matter what.
Mm. Okay.
Because what happened is I may get to the hotel, put all the gear out that came on the larger bag, but then if I'm going out, I don't want to carry that larger bag. I want my daily bag. And I make that mistake long time ago on a trip. I say never again. This thing is coming forever in the trip. So
Makes sense.
it's that make it very comfortable because it's a bag that I know how to assembly, and it's very, very comfortable for me. So that's what I did on this trip. I bring the larger bag with all the gear that needed to come with me, and inside of the bag was or inside of the carry-on, it was the daily bag. So when I got there, I set up, put all the chargers, all the stuff, and then every time I wanted to leave out, I was leaving with my daily bag. That said, it is something that, as you said, it's been years on the making. And the reason I
Hmm.
wanted to do this show, because as I'm now, it's conscious and I have the bags and I have the different kind of gear in a smaller patch or smaller pouches. It took years to figure it out. I don't need this. For example, I have a pouch of cables for the MacBook. Okay.
Hmm.
Do I need that? No, unless I'm leaving the MacBook. But I don't want to think on what is the possibility of cables, because the many decisions I need to make at that point, the more
Hmm.
complex it is. Especially when you're packing. Most people tend to pack at the last moment. I understand I'm not the kind, but I seen by experience it's the night before or 2 nights before, and that's the moment you start thinking, okay, what is the gear cables that I may need? So over the years, mines are grouped into packs. Even on my daily bag, I can take packs out of that thing that I may want to carry or not carry, depending what I'm going to do and how heavy I want that bag. And the same thing happen when it's a longer trip. I have a pouch that has the extension cord with three plugs and three USB, two USB-A and one USB-C. Okay, that has a long cable. Why? Because then I can get to any hotel and don't need to be necessarily glued
Hmm.
to that cable. I can plug that in, and between that thing and my other cable, I can reach almost any part of the room. I travel to small rooms, yes. So, but those kind of things are the things that make the trip very comfortable for me, at least on the side of the gear when I get there. So as you said, if I get there, what of this gear that I carry with me, it's replaceable if it breaks or
Hmm.
it doesn't matter. And that's something that is critical. Because, for example, if I travel with my iPad and I'm inside of the United States and the iPad die, doesn't matter. I can go to any Apple store and I will have a new iPad in the worst case in 12 hours. Okay. No issues. But if I'm traveling abroad, that's a
Hmm.
different issue now. Okay. Then do that means I'm bringing one or two iPads? Because if that break, I may be in trouble. I don't enjoy working on the iPhone. So
Yeah.
those are the kind of things that you do. I don't make a distinction between vacation or work. So I'm not the kind of person who
Hmm.
goes and said, okay, I'm not working next week because I'm on vacation. For me, the change of scenery, the change of food, the change of place is enough, and I get bored. So I go to work. I may work into different projects. For example, last week there were
Hmm.
things that were canceled of my regular work week, so I could have that flexibility and have that space to work into a couple of other projects. But it's at the end of the day, I'm working, but that also changed how my bags are built. If you
Hmm.
said, you know what, I don't want to, I don't need to check work email. I can leave 1 week of vacation or the trip without checking work email. Great. Then do that change the gear you take with you and how you
Hmm.
think on those multiple options?
Yeah. The grab bag mindset of packing can be really useful with tech, especially when it comes to accessories. I have a black cable bag, for lack of a better term. It's a slimline cable bag, and it has loops in it that hold all different types of cables. The cables in that bag are never used for anything else. They always live in that bag.
Mhm.
So if I'm sitting in my home office and I need a cable, I don't go and raid that bag to get the cable. I'll find the cable someplace else because what's in that bag needs to be available to me whenever I'm someplace outside my office. And that's what I grab. Now, that can go into a day pack. It can go into a much larger pack for an extended period of time. I can just transfer it, whatever. But I know I still have a mental image of the inventory of cables that are in that particular pack. That's really useful because cable or accessory cables are one of those things that you always have. I have the charger, I have the device, and I have no way to connect the two things because I'm missing the cable. Or the cable goes bad or breaks or whatever, you catch it on something and it tears or you break a connector off. Those things happen. So being able to do that quick pack knowing it's a known quantity of the contents within makes that part much easier. Thinking about the scale of a trip, I mentioned thinking about it for a week versus a day. Day trips are just that. They are something that if you're going to be on site somewhere for the day, um, there's a baseline of materials that you take with you. I mean, if I had to mentally inventory my day bag right now, I would be taking my field laptop because I have an older laptop that I use that's an ultralight for out in the field because if it gets beat up, I don't care. Um,
Right.
take a mouse, uh, set of wired headphones that I can plug into the field laptop, charging cable for it, uh, paper, pen, or notepad, pen, and that's pretty much about it. I may take a battery brick as well, depending on just depending on possible circumstances in the location. Aside from that, I try to keep it fairly minimal for a day basis because that's still, we're talking about at that point, maybe a 25-pound bag, 20-pound bag. I mean,
Right.
it can get heavy pretty quick.
Eh,
So for a day, you want to be able to be efficient and move around if you have to move from meeting room to meeting room. When I was on corporate sites, I'd be going from meeting room to meeting room, sometimes from a cube to a meeting room to a cube and back and forth again. And I'm taking it all with me. So I have it there. That requires a little bit more efficiency when it comes to being able to pack and unpack. The week long type of
Oh,
activity,
so before you
that's,
go to the week long,
yeah. No, let's
let
talk
me
about the
stop you
day.
there because
Yeah.
in my case, I have on my daily bag there is a set of cables, okay, that will connect. Basically, I have a USB A to any kind of USB. So I have a one to USB C, one to Lightning, and one to USB micro USB. That is on my bag. That doesn't leave the bag, so I can connect basically if I need a if
Mhm.
I found a power cord, I can connect. And the weekly one is where the cables are. And you make me laugh because for many years, do I have enough cables? Do I have all the combinations that I did? And one day I, fed up by this, went to Amazon, bought a new Anchor power base. And the reason of the new power brick was because I wanted a power brick who can do 65 watts so I could charge the laptop. Okay, that was the goal. So I bought that, and then I bought a set of four cables that are magnetic. So they are USB A or USB C on one side, and then
Okay.
the other one, the other side, is magnetic. So that way I can create any cable. And as you said, those cables is on a bag, and the other two things that are on that bag is a battery for my Apple Watch and
Hmm.
an external battery pack. So it keeps three things: a battery that can charge, that can turn on laptops, a power brick that can turn on laptops, and those four
Hmm.
cables. And that's it. And that bag is like that, closed. And unless I'm taking that bag with me, as you said, nothing on that bag is to be touched. There are
Right.
plenty of cables everywhere else. And that make that bag, as you described, incredibly effective because I can grab and go. I don't need to check, oh, it is the cable, do I have the cables? If I grab that particular bag, it's ready to go. For the other things is where I spend more time thinking, what else should I bring?
Yeah, this is where we start to cross into some interesting territory because there's differing areas of thought when it comes to, I want to say, prepping an office for temporary relocation. If you're going to be, let's say you're going to be someplace, well, let's say you're going on a trip, you're going on vacation, and you want to take your office with you on that.
Mhm.
It's going to be a working vacation. You can certainly do that. How do you plan and prep everything that needs to go without being overboard? I've seen people go through and literally have a rolling bag, a backpack, a day pack, a side pack, all in the same trip. They bring just about every piece of tech they use on a daily basis. And I always question, out of all that stuff, what actually came out of your bag while you were there? Not because you might have needed it, but what actually got used? And what are the
Mhm.
things in there that did not get used that their job could be done by something else? That becomes a bigger question in many cases. And as we talk about this more, we'll talk about things like connectivity challenges and things like that. But when you do, let's say, a week trip, first, what's your bag look like? What kind of a bag do you take with you?
I have a very small bag. And again, as I said at the beginning of the show, the problem is I need to constrain the space because otherwise I will put
Hmm.
everything. Okay. The speaker. Well, but are you going to listen to the speaker? No, but maybe I get one. Okay.
Okay.
So I am not a good measurement. Therefore, I have learned that the smaller the bag, the better for me. So because of that, my bag is very, very small. And it's basically the size of an iPad and can fit two iPads, and that's it. And with the keyboard. So that's it. And again, it is designed on purpose. Actually, it's so bad that when I carry that long pack that I have described, I need to hang that pack outside. It has two hooks to hang outside of the bag because it doesn't fit. Because if I have that space, I will put something else on that space. Okay, headphones, another cable, something. So because of that, that bag is very, very small.
Yeah, my day to 2 day bag is it's a pretty standard gray backpack. I mean, it's one that you would find at your local big box office supply store or on Amazon or something like that. Multiple pockets, water or water bottle holders on the sides. It's got a padded slot for the laptop. It's got a security pocket in the back. I mean, it's your typical bag. If I'm going for, let's say, a week, I do have a different bag that I take, and that's a much larger leather bag. It's got reinforced zippers, it's got reinforced pouches on it. It holds a lot more. It's heavier, it's quite a bit heavier as a bag, much less the content within it. But my assumption is, and this is the criteria that I would use to determine if it's actually going to go with me. My assumption is once this bag gets to my destination, it's not going to get carried around a lot. It's a transfer bag, not an operational bag. And in that transfer
Okay.
bag, I can put, multiple battery bricks. I can put multiple chargers. I can put a secondary display if I need it. All the stuff that creates that secondary office can go in that bag. And I'm literally just moving it from point A to point B. When it gets to point B, it's going to stay there till I go back to point A. So I'll have that bag and I'll have my day bag because then my day bag allows me to move around within the point B space as much as I need to with still that lightweight streamlined configuration. Um, I also have let's say it's a half day type of thing, or it's a lot of moving around, a lot of changing locations, and I need to travel extra light for a day. I have a
Right.
messenger bag I will use. It's a very lightweight messenger bag. It's padded for the laptop. It'll hold both sizes of laptops that I carry, but it'll hold the laptop, the charger, and maybe my notebook and pens are about the extent of what go in there. Beyond that, it starts getting a little chunky and a little bulky. It is designed to be as streamlined as possible. So if I have like a 2 hour meeting or a couple of 2 hour meetings at different locations, the odds are pretty good I may take that with me instead of the backpack. Again, the principle is finding the balance point between equipment and movement. And we've all done this. If you've been a road warrior at any point or time in your career, you will have crossed the line where you carried too much. You had a bag that was too heavy. You've talked about this in the past. I've had it in the past as well. I mean, it's the reason why they have cases with wheels on them. You'll wind up with
Why do
something
you
that is
think I
just,
have one with wheels?
it's just, the weight gets impractical at times. Now, it used to be worse. Things have gotten much lighter. I have to say that as a fact across the board. Things are clearly much lighter. Uh, but with that said, also, I would say, and this is just a side observation for people, remember, things have gotten lighter. Ergo, things have gotten thinner. Ergo, they don't take hits as well. So it's more important than ever if you're buying a bag for any sort of daily or weekly travel that it be very well padded and reinforced. Because the old ThinkPads, you could stand on them and they wouldn't care. Most of the machines now, if you open them too hard, they kind of flinch a little bit. So padding is important for protecting the investment. Okay, so we've talked about bags. You've got now you're the iPad guy, so you're taking iPads. I'm taking a Windows machine because that's what I take. I'll often take my Android tablet with me as well, so I'll have a tablet and the laptop, so I'll have both, which is a little bit of weight, but I like having both devices. Accessories. Beyond cables and chargers, what are the accessories that you find invaluable when you're looking at it a week or longer?
If I'm going a week or longer, it is the extension cord that I mentioned. I, for
Mhm.
longer, travel without extension cord, and I understood it was something dumb. So I now have extension cord that has is an anchor extension cord, and then on the front it has three USB and three regular, uh, or two is two power and three USB. So
Hmm.
basically, you can connect the universe in that thing, and then on top of that, I connect the plug-in to connect other things.
Hmm.
But that give me a long enough cable so I can really connect everything comfortable. So that comes with me. Normally, if I go that long, the battery will come with me.
Hmm.
Um, and that's pretty much it. For being an iPad, when I need to do keynotes, I do it on the iPad. So that cable that goes from USB-C to HDMI, it's always on my bag. So that doesn't move out of that bag. So that's pretty much all that it goes with me. It used to be a lot heavier than that,
Hmm.
but as you joke, I have joked on the show, that at some moment with the back pain, I went to the doctor and he weighed my back, not me, and told me get a wheels and send me home with a nice bill. But my one of the things I enjoy about the back is that really my back is heavy because I had junk, not because it need to
Hmm.
be. I could really take one iPad and one connector and survive for 24 hours. Add one more cable with a power brick, and I can survive a week. I like the comfort of having multiple devices. That is what make that back heavy. And it's that mental part of, oh, what if that get me in trouble that make me expand the bags. Okay. Because really, like you, probably I can survive on one machine. I don't know when is the last time I traveled with one machine. That's maybe a bad habit, but I could really survive on one machine.
So from an accessory standpoint, this has changed over the years for me because the bulk of the devices I have, except for my field laptop, all use USB-C for charging now, which has made a world of difference. I have a 65-watt charging block that goes in my bag, and I have a 15-foot USB-C cable that I use for charging. Um, I specifically bought it to be a charging cable, and that gives me more than enough reach in pretty much any place I am to get to an outlet and be able to work and charge at the same time. If I were to forget my wireless charging unit, I can charge off of the back of my phone. My phone supports wireless charging to other devices. So I can charge, but even my earbuds, still USB-C. So I minimize that. I do carry a mouse with me just because I find there are certain tasks that I'll get into that are just flat out easier with a mouse.
Right.
But it's not an expensive one. It's a cheap, it's like an under $20 Bluetooth 2.4 gigahertz, um, just basic mouse. And I do like the 2.4 gigahertz part of it. I like plugging the dongle in and it just works. I don't have to worry about Bluetooth connections or anything like that. That if it gets left behind, so be it. It gets left behind. I'm not going to cry over it. Beyond that, from an accessory standpoint, that's where I have to start watching myself because then I can start to, well, maybe I want to take this and maybe I want to take that thing. Uh, Battery bricks, for example. I find that I'm very bad with packing in too many battery bricks. I'll put one in my bag and like, you know what? Oh, here's another one. I'll throw that one in there too. Yeah, and I get to like 8 pounds of battery backup bricks that are in this bag. And they never come out. I may never have a reason for them. I'm like, oh, I might need them. So that's a line that I have to cross carefully. Uh, so thinking about this whole process, one of the things that occurred to me talking about the bags is, let me ask a question. Now are you a backpack guy or are you a
No,
regular? Okay. So when you've used backpacks, are you a one strap or a two strap guy?
one strap guy. That's the
Okay.
reason I don't use backpacks.
And this herein lies the issue. I too will only use one strap, and backpacks are not made for that. They're not designed for that. Their weight distribution is wrong for that. They are set up to be two shoulders. They are set up to be cinched in a certain way to distribute the weight properly. I've done backpacking on the Appalachian Trail where you have full framed backpacks. You carry everything for a week. It's like 50 pounds a bag. And your entire world is in that backpack.
Right.
And you realize nobody in their right mind would ever carry that with one strap. It's just not designed for that. But yet we'll go and we'll grab a bag that's probably 30 pounds, throw it on our back with one strap, and then wonder partway through the day why our shoulders hurting, our backs hurting, and things are all askew in the bag.
But you
So
you want to use common sense. This is not common sense
I know
discussion.
I'm not saying put both straps on because honestly, it's a little geeky and it can be a little awkward, especially if you're wearing something nice, or even worse, if it's cold weather and you've got a heavy jacket on, that kind of thing, that becomes very difficult. So you have to think about the bag you're going to utilize. How would you normally wear that? And then make sure you get a bag that supports that. So, for example, if it's a messenger bag, most messenger bags, the straps aren't that well padded. They don't have a lot of reinforcement in them. So all that weight is going to be this thinly webbed straps hanging off of your one shoulder. So thinking about things like a sling bag, perhaps, or something with a different configuration to distribute that weight properly is really important depending on how you're going to carry. And that's why I think it's so important to plan this exercise out so you know what you're taking and what that approximate weight is. Um, the other thing that's a challenge too is sometimes the bag itself can be a weight factor. I mean, like I talked about my leather bag, I mean, it's a transport bag, but the bag itself is about 10 pounds, maybe 12. I mean, it's got some, because it's thick leather. It was a gift. Beautiful bag, but it's got some beef to it. So that compounds right away the weight that you're carrying around and the structure of what you're carrying. So you have to include that and kind of plan that in. And we do that with our luggage. This is what kind of boggles my mind. If you go on a trip, you'll weigh your bag, you'll measure your bag, you'll figure out how everything's distributed just right to avoid those check-in fees or whatever it is. But yet we don't give ourselves the same latitude to do that with our
Nope.
daily bags. We just grab and go. Or worst case, and this is, yeah, honestly, worst case, we'll use whatever bag we were given. If we have a corporate job, often they'll give us a laptop and they'll give us a bag that goes with it, and we'll use that bag. That is now our bag. That is probably the worst bag for you on a daily basis. It's designed to protect your computer. It's not designed to work from. So having that thought and that thought process around how do I make my life as easy as possible? How do I make this as convenient as possible for me? I have to think about those bags and those configurations and figure out how it's going to wear best. So when we think about this, we should always bring up mistakes that we've made. So is there something that you've done in the past that you would never do again when it comes to setting yourself up to travel for, say, a week and work while you're out there?
No, but actually the other way around. I don't know if I will stop carrying stuff, but a couple a couple of times was going to travel and start thinking, should I bring? I have a Bose noise cancellation headset. They're very good. I bought years ago a Bluetooth thing, so I don't need to use the cable, but they're big. Okay, and he's like, every time I'm traveling, should I bring them? Should I don't bring them? Now it's on the list. If it's an airplane trip, bring them. Why?
Mhm.
Because if I travel in the car, it doesn't matter. But I learned that if I'm traveling in plane, it matters. It makes a difference to have the noise canceling. So doesn't matter if it's just during the airport that I'm going to use them, it's worth it. So that's one thing that is on my list, Mark. The opposite, not as don't take this.
Mhm.
Make sure if you are on a plane, this need to come. And the issue is they're big. So it's one of those things that are big, and you're going to use 6 hours, maybe 12 hours. It's worth it. I don't know. I have learned, yes, it is. Um, the things I stopped carrying with me are things like speakers. I used to take a speaker with me. And what I learned is when I travel by myself, the speaker may work. So I will be in the hotel room, then I
Mhm.
can put podcast music, whatever. But now the AirPods are so comfortable that it's not necessary anymore. And the speaker was something for me on those moments where you had the wire thing, and then you're trying to charge the device and suddenly you want to move and everything goes to the floor. I know that never happened to you, but it happened to
Mm.
me
Oh no,
more
no,
than I
all the
care
time,
to admit.
all
Okay.
the time.
So that thing comes with me. I have a 12,000 Airfly. 12 South is a brand. It's called the
Hmm.
Airfly, and this thing connect on a 3.5 headphone and then convert into the frequency so I can connect my AirPods. That thing is into the. Please do not forget this thing, because I can connect it basically to any device, and it works. So that's things that I have stopped carrying are, you used to carry the tape or the cable to connect to the radio in the rental car. Now the rental cars, most of them has Bluetooth. I just connect and disconnect before I leave. I don't need to carry those. But those was the stuff that at some point I needed to open the bag and say, really, do I still need to carry this? It's time to retire. And I was saying on the pre-show that I'm coming to that time of the year. There is a moment in the year where I learned this from Michael Slewinski, CEO of Nusby, and he once a year kick everything out of his office, okay,
Hmm.
and start bringing things one by one. And whatever he is not, oh yeah, I used this yesterday, it comes to, let's think about it, pile. And if you don't use it in a week, it's not coming back into the office. But what that allows you to do is to purge the stuff, because otherwise you end up like I used to have a box of cables. And when you open, you say, this connector, interesting. God knows what it was for.
Yeah, we won't get into boxes of cables. All right, I got
We all
boxes
have
and
them.
boxes. Yes.
And it is a different show, but it happened with the bag, especially when you have
Yeah.
those pouch. That's something important to consider. How often, doesn't matter how often you travel, but especially if you don't travel that often, how often you check what is on those pouches, because there are things that are very obvious. But as
Hmm.
you said, now all my chargers are USB-C. Fantastic. So how many micro USB you still have on the bag? And the answer is irrelevant. It's just something that is important to be aware that can happen.
Yeah, I would say that there aren't specific things that I don't carry anymore, but there are certain things that are must carries, and they're lessons learned from the past. So, for example, my bag will always have a paper notebook, a mechanical pencil, and a pen in it. Unless I'm flying, then the pen comes out, and I'll just keep a mechanical pencil. Um, because you never know when you're not going to have power or access to something. And paper never fails. So it's always a thing. Second, my cable bag has one cable in it that is incredibly useful, and it is a USB-C to 35 mil or 3.5 millimeter headphone jack adapter. That it also has a pass-through on it to allow you to charge the device at the same time. Basically, what it gives me the option to do is for my tablet or my phone, I can plug in my wired headphones to that device now. And it's a wired connection, so I don't have to worry about any
Right.
charge. Though that's the backup gear that's in the bag. Past couple of years, I have added to that my Samsung Galaxy Bud Pros, which are basically like the AirPods. I won't go anywhere without these things. Literally, if I'm going out for an evening, these things will be in my pocket for a couple of reasons. One, they have the active noise canceling, like you were talking about. In the car, on an airplane, on the train, I can block out all that noise. They have an ambient mode. But what's nice is they last about 5 hours and they'll recharge in about a half hour in the case. I love that aspect of it because let's say, for example, I'm traveling somewhere and um, I'm at an office location for the entire day. I can have those earbuds in all morning long, and then when I go and grab some lunch, I pop them in the case, go to wherever I need to, get the lunch, bring it back, and by the time I've made that half-hour round trip, they're charged up and ready to go for the rest of the time period. They're incredibly useful. Oh, and the last thing that always goes in my bags now, regardless, is a tracker. I use the Samsung ones. If you use an AirTag, whatever, there's one in my bag. There's always one in my bag because if for no other reason, it gives me a sense of self-confidence to know that, a reassurance that I can locate that bag.
That even if that bag, it's so you have a sensor on your daily bag?
Yeah, yeah, it's in the side pocket. I have a tracker in my wallet. My wallet has one of the slip card ones from Tile. So that way, if I lay my wallet somewhere, I can use my phone to locate it. But I have one in my daily bag. That way, in case I were to get separated from it or go to a different location, and I've learned this from experience. Um, Not so many years ago, I was in a conference room working, and I had to move to another conference room for another meeting for a few minutes. By the time I came back, the first meeting had ended, and all the stuff had been cleared out of that room. Well, somebody took my bag and moved it, didn't tell me where it went. And I'm like, this is an issue. So I spent 2 hours going around asking people, where'd the stuff go from in there? Oh, we don't know. My bag grew legs and walked off. Now I finally found it like 3 cubes over in a different part of the building, but that's not acceptable. That's a waste of
No, no,
time.
no, no. Correct. Correct.
So having that tracker makes a huge difference. And just as a side thing, I recommend to everybody, say, look, if you're going to be traveling, put one of those in your luggage, especially if it's checked luggage, because the ability to be able to walk up to a luggage or to a checkout counter and say, hey, my bag is in Albuquerque and I'm in Chicago, helps you in trying to get that Albuquerque bag back. So yeah, I definitely say that the trackers are a good idea for that. And the systems have gotten much better. They'll tell you if you've got an unmonitored tracker following you
Yeah.
around. I mean, these are mine, so it's I know where
I
my
need
stuff
to.
is.
I You said that I need to add my wife has the AirPods Pro, and I need to add them to my watch because during this trip you have an AirPods Pro following you. Yes, I know for the
There you
last
go.
20 years.
Yes, you won't get off my back. Yeah, I really think that type of a thing can be very useful. But that actually brings us back to something that we hinted around earlier. What do you do when you're going to a location that you know is going to have questionable connectivity?
How is that? Sorry, I lost you.
Oh, what do you do when you're going to a location that's going to have questionable
Oh,
internet connectivity?
you mean every time? So last week, so technically my iPads have data.
Hmm.
So that tend to be my backup plan. So
Hmm.
I count that I'm going to get a place with Wi-Fi, and then my backup is AT&T. As take
Okay.
that whatever you want to take it. If you're an AT&T user, you will take it differently than if you're a Verizon or T-Mobile. Mostly because everybody thinks the grass is greener on the other side. So but I have the advantage that because my main machine is an iPad, I have that. Years ago, when it was the MacBook and when it was the PC, I always had to carry one of those modem things
Hmm.
with slow data. Uh, or today I will use my phone instead of having one of those. But I always carry that as a backup
Yeah,
since they were available at least.
this is the thing where we've seen things change over time. Um, the Samsung phone that I use acts as a hotspot. AT&T provides the hotspot capability through it. It can act as an open Wi-Fi hotspot or secure Wi-Fi hotspot for any other device, or I can use its direct connect capability to my Samsung laptop and pass it through. So connectivity should not be an issue, but it still can be. I mean, I've been in places that aren't that far away where even the cell connectivity is horrendous. So this is where I think we revisit some of the topics that we've talked about in the past, choosing software solutions, for example, that have offline capability. One of the tools that I use quite a bit, Notion, has no offline capability. So if you're in a location without offline, or if without data availability, which is not that uncommon. It's here on the West Coast, we tend to get very spoiled with the ubiquity of the data connectivity that we have to us. You get a little bit away from here, just a little bit away, and you'll find lots of dead areas. You don't have that offline access or the ability to plan to work offline, you're going to find yourself in a fairly significant problem. Now, things like OneDrive and things like Google Drive do give you the option to flag files to work offline. They'll create a cached version of the thing on your local machine. Applications like Evernote and OneNote will work on an offline mode, but you have to take that into consideration. If it's a one-time thing, that's fine. But if it's more often than one time, then you've got to kind of plan in advance.
I
So
wish to tell
what
you
would
that I have a
be,
better
go
answer
ahead.
for that, but I wish to tell you I have a better answer. But like you said, it is you
Mhm.
plan for the worst and hope for the best. That's what I because it doesn't matter. You may go to the corporate building, and this happened to a client of mine this week. Okay, on Tuesday they had an issue with a VPN. Then didn't matter if you were in, you were out. Didn't matter. Okay. Some, even it was so weird that some of the people in the building could not connect. So depending
Mhm.
where in the building, where in the building you were, so where that switch was, you could connect or not connect. So those happen. But again, you plan for the worst and hope for the best. That's what I did last week. And actually, we canceled the show because the signal was so bad that I could not record. So that happened, and there is nothing you can do about it. Or at least,
One
again,
of
I don't have a perfect plan yet for that.
No, but this is one of those things again where we things to plan for in advance. Having a good VPN, finding a good VPN solution to use is critical, especially if you're going to travel
Yeah,
quite a bit. If you're going to use any sort of a offered
public.
Wi-Fi service, or even something as simple as your primary provider, if you're a Comcast customer, you'll find Xfinity Wi-Fi all over the place, but those are open connections. You have to log into it, but it's still, for all intents and purposes, an open connection. So having that VPN is something that can really provide you that security layer that you need. There are different options for VPN. There's the one I use is it's called Warp. It's 1.1.1.1. Provides nice, good, clean, solid
Mhm.
VPN. There's Nord. There's a whole variety of them out there. Do some research, do some investigating. There's lots of good resources out on the web as to finding a good quality VPN to utilize to protect your information because you are vulnerable when you're traveling. People will expect you to try and take advantage of things that are convenient, and convenient can often yield problems if
Right.
you haven't taken the steps to provide yourself that layer of security. So, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give anybody who's planning to work at a remote location from where they normally work? I'll use that as the qualifier. for a period of a week or more, what's the one thing that you would tell anybody who said they were going to do that?
The first thing is be very clear what is important for you on the daily use. What are you using every day? Take it. The second thing is think what I'm having here in my daily office that I may need. Because sometimes you take and say, well, I have the laptop, and then you got there and discover, oh, but I have this long cable in the office, in the house, and now I'm here and I have a 1 meter, you know, a 10 feet inch
Mhm.
thing that it will not let me to plug into the wall. So understand what is comfort for you to work because it's a week. At the end of the day, it's 5 days. Many people can work 2 hours in the couch. You may not be able to work 50 hours in the couch.
Mm,
So
true.
take that into consideration. If you're going to say, okay, I'm going to work, what doesn't matter? I can work in the couch. Can you really work 8 hours in the couch? And again, not everybody can. There is people who can. Not everybody can. Hey, I use multiple screens. Okay. Are you going to be able to really work with one screen? Okay. And I shared my wife's story when pandemic started. She, like many people, was sent home. And 3 or 4 days into this, I'm noticing her very stressed out. So thinking it's something with work, I approach and ask, I'm lost. See, what's happening? I can work in 13 inches.
Hmm.
Okay. And fine. It was a very easy solution. Okay. We went to Amazon, got a second monitor for her. And I made to the point to buy one that was portable. Okay.
Hmm.
So she could take with her any trip she takes. And for her, who is not a geek person, not a techie person, I explained, I bought this monitor for you so you can take it with you when you travel. I don't need it when I travel. I have never taken external monitor when I travel. Okay, honey. I bought it for you anyways. And the first trip that she went a week, she took it. And that thing now travels with her. Doesn't matter if it's 2 nights anymore.
Sure. If
So
she needs it, she has it. And
if she needs it, she has it.
that would be the one piece of advice I would give anyone is simulate travel.
Mhm.
No matter what you're doing, simulate being in a different location at least once a month. Pick up your stuff and move to a different location and work from that location for an extended period of time. I don't care if it's working, if you're normally in your office and you're working from your dining room table, whatever, but do that and take note of everything that you're missing, everything that you have to go get,
Great advice.
everything that is uncomfortable, awkward. Know what that experience is like and rehearse it and prepare it. So for example, being unable to work without multiple monitors. There was a time where we only had one monitor for most people. So it is doable. It just may not be what you're used to. So you have
Mhm.
to look at your work habits and your work behaviors and say, can I adjust that and can I adapt it accordingly? Um, the other little piece that I would recommend to people though
Oh,
is
and
no
funny,
sing. I was going to say, go ahead.
go, 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 go. Sorry.
I was going to say, no single points of failure. Think about everything you're taking with you and say, is there anything in this that if that thing dies, I am done for? And yeah, the odds are pretty good. Your primary device, your laptop or whatever, would be that single point of failure. That's a pretty big point. You can't, it's often hard to carry two laptops. But everything else, a bad cable, a bad charger, something like that, that should not derail you. You should be able to continue to work. Maybe not at 100% efficiency, but you still should be able to continue to work. If your mouse dies, can you use the trackpad on your machine? If your one charging cable goes bad, do you have a backup one? If your charging block goes bad, Do you have another one? And if you don't, then it may be worth investing in something to round that out.
And understand as you discover these things, what may improve it.
Mm,
Okay. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the pandemic, it was that external monitor for my wife. Eventually, that external monitor was upgraded to an iPad. Why?
mhm.
Because she discovered, oh, I can check email, I can do the Teams, I can connect these things. May not be exactly an extension, but then I can do some stuff in here, some stuff in here. So, and now, as you said, she broke exactly that. She broke that 10-minute, that single point of failure.
Mm,
Okay. Because if her laptop die, she will be able to access most of the things on the iPad and vice versa. So
right.
as you look at your things, also look how this tool could be improved for you.
Yeah, there's no question that going through the exercise, self-awareness, self-analysis will make this more effective for you. And it doesn't matter the tool set you're using. It doesn't matter if you're Apple, your Android, your
Mm,
Windows, your Linux. Figure it out and look at how you do that relocation. And recognize that in those circumstances, you are probably on your own to resolving your problems. In most cases, you're not going to have the option of calling an IT guy to come take care of it for you. You're going to have to deal with it. So getting comfortable with the troubleshooting process and the basic mechanics, have you turned it off and on again? Being able to go through that sequence of steps can really make a big difference in how well things work for you, especially on the road. And traveling's stressful enough. You don't need to make it any more difficult with
right,
non-working equipment and poor processes.
right. Well, I hope this is helpful for people on the road, especially as the summer or the end of the summer approach. People is taking more of these vacations and longer trips, and some of them require equipment, some of them don't. But take all these things into consideration. So follow us where you like to listen to podcasts, like us, subscribe to us, or leave us a review. You can also interact with us in Personal Productivity Club. We have a channel there. We are Augusto Pinaud and Art Gelwicks. See you next time from your favorite device. Thank you.